Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Gone are the days of wrestling with our favorite LJN wrestling figures, trying to convince them to stand up. What's a guy to do? I'll tell you what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get on Etsy and look up 4 Left 3D Creations and get yourself these amazing custom LJN figure stands. There is a custom stand available for every single one of your LJN wrestling superstar figures. Make your display shine by grabbing these custom LJN stands from 4 Left 3D Creations today.
Hello everybody, Jason of New Age Revolution Cave, and it is Tuesday, and I am a day late with LJN Revisited, and I am very sorry. Yesterday was a very stressful day in the Revolution home, and I didn't get a chance to come down here and make a video. So we're going to do 2 today. We're going to do the LJN Revisited, and then we're going to do Hey, Do You Remember dinners, family dinners in the 80s. Can't wait to talk about that. LJN Revisited, we are up to one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, one of my favorite figures of all time, and one of my favorite custom stands of all time. That's right. If you head over to Etsy now, you can get your hands on these fantastic LJN custom stands from 4 Left 3D Creations. And this is the Macho Man, Randy Savage. That might be a little clue as to who I'm talking about today. But for all of your LJN stand needs, head over to 4 Left 3D Creations on Etsy and get your custom Macho Man stand. Series 5 of the custom stands are on their way, and I'm pumped about that. But let's talk about the Macho Man, my friend D-Mod's favorite wrestler. Here he is, Randy Savage. One of the most played with figures in my LJN Federation history. I love this figure. I think it's fantastic. Even if it's got the hands up, it's not my favorite play pose. Didn't matter. In a million years, it doesn't matter. This is still one of the best figures of all time. And he got so much play. In fact, Randy Savage was multiple-time heavyweight champion in my federation, multiple-time intercontinental champion, fluctuated back and forth between bad guy and good guy, had some fantastic matches with Hulk Hogan. In fact, if I were to play today, if I were to pull out the LJNs today, I would probably have a match with Greg Valentine. I'd have a match with Ricky Steamboat, but I would also have Hogan versus Savage, because this figure is fantastic. I have no memory of when I think this was probably, well, now I know. This was Christmas 87. This is the figure that I got. I assume. I can't remember how many LJN figures were in that massive Christmas package of 87. I can't remember. There's no way I'll be able to remember who. I know Captain Lou was in that batch, and I know King Kong Bundy was in that batch. So I've got to assume that Randy Savage was in that Christmas batch. But I also did get a lot of figures throughout the year. I remember getting Terry Funk and SD Jones at just a random toy store by my grandma. So I assume that Savage was Christmas 87. Big assumption. Never got to meet Randy Savage. Loved watching his matches. Really, there's nothing negative you could say about Randy Savage's run in the WWF in our early times. I didn't, I wasn't watching as much, early 90s. I don't remember when he jumped to WC. I think it was 95 when he went to WCW. I forget what he was doing in the WWF at the end of his run. I know he was doing some commentary on Raw. But I don't the Randy Savage that I remember is the 1985, 1986, 1987 Randy Savage. The battles with Ricky Steamboat, challenging for Hogan, those incredible Hogan versus Savage house show matches, Madison Square Garden matches, just outstanding. And then, one of the biggest moments of a kid's wrestling life, Randy Savage face turn on Saturday night's main event. And how that got us jumping out of our seats at, midnight on a Saturday night when Savage was being double teamed or triple teamed, I think, by the Hart Foundation and the Honky Tonk Man. And Liz goes running to the back and, pulls out in one of the weirdest television moments, pulls out Hulk Hogan, who's acting like he doesn't know what's going on. So she's pulling him to the ring, and you know, she's begging him, come on, and he's coming out just, you know, dumbfounded, looking around, what Liz, what? And then he notices the ring, and then he goes, ooh, and he starts running to the ring. And I thought that was the cheesiest Hulk Hogan moment of all time, but also the most amazing moment of all time as a 12-year-old or 11-year-old or whatever I was watching it. And then, of course, the slow burn of the Mega Powers with, you know, Hogan having lust in his eyes for Liz, and Savage, you know, just dying inside as Hogan and Liz are getting too close. And again, the best heel turn slow burn ever. I mean, it took months with little clues and looks and turning his back and then they make up. And, you know, I thought the Randy Savage, you know, second heel turn was fantastic. And the only person on the planet that didn't know it was coming was Hogan. You know, and then it culminates with this another amazing event on a primetime show, the main event this time. Savage and Hogan versus Akeem and Boss Man. And you get that whole backstage deal with Liz going down and Hogan carrying her to the back, and Randy coming in and going nuts, and you've got lust in your eyes. And you never forget that stuff. I can't wait to rewatch it. That event also had the famous, you know, they turned the camera on too soon when Hogan was, you know, asking for time. Go look for that on the YouTube. He, you know, he's like, I need a countdown. You know, what's the tizime? You know, and they got that on camera. Good stuff. But Savage is one of the greatest of all time. One of the greatest figures of all time. One of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I love this figure. So much play, like I said, so much. And it would be a figure that I would play with today. Absolutely 100% a figure that I would play with today if I were to bust out the LJNs. And I'm not saying I will, but if I did, I'd have a Savage match. I don't know. And something is coming up in a couple of weeks, or a week, is the 40th anniversary of Hulk Hogan winning the world title from the Iron Sheik. There might be a little surprise for that, and it might involve the LJNs and the ring and me and Play Action Championship. I don't know. I'm just saying we might have a little special episode for the 40th anniversary. But we're talking about Savage right now. Let's take a closer look at Randy Savage. Throughout this video, I showed you the LJN poster of Savage. I showed you the carded figure. I showed you the extremely elusive and expensive black card figure that I never saw, never had, never touched. But now let's take a closer look at Randy Savage. Yeah, dig it. All right, folks. Of course, as always, before we get started, let's take another look at that custom LJN figure stand from 4 Left 3D Creations on Etsy. If you ever wanted to see how this happens here, you take your nameplate and you simply pop it in. You can glue that if you want. I don't, so I just leave it like that. But again, Etsy, 4 Left 3D Creations. Get your custom LJN stands today. Let's take a look at the Macho Man, one of the greatest LJN figures of all time. One of the most visually iconic LJN figures of all time. I think him and Hogan are the two figures that scream LJN to me the most. Maybe Iron Sheik also. But it's perfect. It's a perfect figure. Slight points taken away for the play pose, I suppose, but I've always been fine with this pose, and I've always been able to make do with it. It's a fine pose. I don't even know if I should take points off for it, but face is definitely Randy Savage without a doubt. One open hand, one clenched fist, perfect trunks, perfect boots, pink, headband is fine, sunglasses are fine. I mean, it's a fantastic figure. And there's the back, which is, you know, the front. But tell me again, is there another figure besides Hogan that you would be able to, you know, look, you could hand me this figure. Well, you could hand me most, if not all, of my figures with my eyes closed, and I could tell you who they are just by feel. But this is a figure that just stands out from the others as a total representation of the LJNs. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I think this is one of the 2 or 3 most recognizable LJN figures. Randy Macho Man Savage, one of the best, and a figure that I would likely play with if I were to play with the LJNs again. All right, folks, that is all. Tomorrow or next Monday, we will be taking a look at Don Morocco as we scroll through the LJNs one more time, taking a retrospective close-up look at each figure. See you then. Good night now.